Kirk, thank you so much for joining us today on the Rev Rx Podcast, man. What a privilege it is to have you here joining us on the show from sunny Arizona, right?
Yeah, Chad, I am super excited to be here. So thank you.
I love your work on calm parenting. If there ever was an oxymoron, kind of like jumbo shrimp, right? In my world right now, I'm like, calm parenting, man, how does that work together? And I can't wait to get into that. But before we do, I'd love for you just to introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us a little bit about you and how you got into this world of calm parenting.
It was our son. Our son came out of the womb with boxing gloves on. He's kind of a typical kind of strong-willed child, lots of energy, likes to argue.
Mm-hmm.
Traditional approach that I grew up with, my dad was career military. So it was kind of the my way or highway, fear and intimidation approach. And I tried that. It backfired on our son. And I didn't want to go all the way to the other extreme of just being too soft and letting him get away with things. So the first thing that I learned, Chad, during this, the first thing I tried was just to change my son until I finally kind of, God kind of does that still small voice of like, hey, maybe you're the issue here. And I was like, It can't be me. I'm the father. I'm the authority figure.
Yeah, I was here first.
And then I finally realized the only person in life that I can control is myself.
Yeah.
And the quickest way to change a child's behavior is just to first control your own body posture, your own tone of voice. So that set me on this kind of transformation from being kind of very intense, reactive, good dad. Like I was involved. It was just like, Chad, every situation, I'd eventually get frustrated and just take out my frustration on my son, Casey. Yeah. And I was like, that's not the dad I want to be. So that led to, I was working full-time kind of corporate job, but I started volunteering in Casey's classroom. And so I was kind of always really good with the outcast kids that didn't want to be in school, the really bright ones that thought it was all kind of, arbitrary and boring.
Sure.
So I was working with them. We eventually opened up our home. So the idea was, instead of just kids coming into a therapeutic office, why don't you come to our house? We'll build with Legos. We'll play. You'll get frustrated. I'll change plans on you at the last minute so you melt down. And I'll just teach you how to deal with life.
Wow.
And so we had 1,500 kids in our home over the course of a decade, started traveling and speaking. And then that kind of led us to the podcast because I wanted to be like you, Chad, with a podcast. And so that's kind of the main thrust of what we do now.
Yeah, I love it. And you're providing such an important voice to families that are just in the thick of it. So I appreciate you sharing your experience and sharing your story and allowing that to help other people. The longer I do this, the more I'm convinced that that's where it's at. Yeah. If we can see what the Lord has helped us through and then help other people with the same thing, man, that's gold. And you're doing that.
Yeah. It also holds me accountable.
It does.
Right? Like I have to keep, not that I have to, like the older you get, it's like, it's easier to normalize. Okay, I'm really flawed in this area. Here's a big weakness for me. Not a lot of like blame and guilt. It's just like, okay, I need to change that. So let me go about maturing. Like we kind of go into like, I wish. So my older brother was a pastor and he actually married us. And what he didn't tell us because he was young is this is the hardest thing you will ever do. Like relationships are not about being happy. It's about transformation. And so I've grown to be thankful for our son because in some ways he just caused me to grow up.
Yeah.
Right. And you've got 3 kids, like at least one of them is going to be an expert button pusher. Right. And just like trigger you when you're like, I didn't even know I had that trigger.
That's right.
Like I thought I was doing well.
And one of the things I like to go ahead.
No, you're good. Sorry.
One of the things I like to say is that marriage and parenthood are 2 of the most sanctifying institutions that we have. You feel like you're doing well. And then you get married and you've got to share this life with someone else when you're used to just doing it by yourself. And your opinion is what mattered. Well, now there's another one. And then now you have children and you don't realize you have some of the flaws that you have. They just have a way of identifying them in the course of raising them. And you're exactly right. Somebody's always pushing a button, and that's where really we find ourselves. And I think a lot of people can relate. And I think a lot of people can relate to the term that you used. You said, "This isn't the father I want to be." I think most people have said at some point, "I don't want to be like this." And so, I think beginning this with the talk that there's no shame or judgment here. Wherever you find yourself, we want to meet you there. And hopefully this allows you to move forward in a better place, to step into your role as a parent and to become a little bit better at what it is that you need help with. And so,
Yeah.
no judgment, no shame. We're not here being like, you've got to be better, but we're offering help and we're offering solutions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing that I did, Chad, at first was to say, so here's kind of my quick tip for dads and moms too. Do the opposite of what you're doing now. Because for me, it was kind of, I just did what my dad did. I walk into a room, a little bit of fear and intimidation,
Yeah.
reactive. So I was like, hey, I'm doing that. It's causing me to get the exact opposite response that I want. So why don't I do the opposite? So I began walking into a room and sitting down. I think there's something very magical in a way about sitting down because it changes the dynamic. I'll give you a cool thing to try sometime.
Yeah.
So kids are squabbling in the other room. Usually we walk in, we actually usually march in, right? Like, I buy you guys all these video games. You've got all these toys I never had as a kid. You can't even play well. You go to your room, you go to your room.
Yep.
And then we think, well, I just discipline my kids. And I was like, not really. You were just frustrated, right? You just separated them so they'd shut up.
Yeah.
But you sent them away from you. But if you walked into that living room and it was safe to do, if you just lie down on the living room floor, just sit and don't say a word, I guarantee you will change the entire dynamic. The kids will stop arguing with each other because they'll look at you like, why is my dad like on the floor? And you're like reading a book or building with Legos. And they're like, what are you doing? You're like, well, I was just observing. So, because my big thing is discipline means to teach, right? I mean, it's the word disciple. It's
Right.
Teach by example. And so typical conversation is, look, I was just observing, and here's what I know. You, the more strong-willed son, usually there's a provoking child and the reacting one.
Yes.
So to the provoking one, I'm like, here's what I love about you. You've got this awesome brain, always thinking of ideas, and you're a go-getter, but you hate boredom. And when you get bored, you just pick on your brother. Well, what happens is you end up getting in trouble for that. So I've got a different idea of how you can not be bored and just actually stimulate your brain. So I've got to go get started on dinner. I'm going to go organize in the garage. If you want to come help me out, I can show you 3 different ways to earn some money, because 2 other things I know about you. You've got a really big heart. You're a born entrepreneur. I'll show you how to make money in the neighborhood. And with that money, you can give some to charity. I'll even match that. You can buy your own video games. That's a cool way to do it. And then with the other child, I can be like, hey, you just keep reacting to your brother. Your brother has complete power over you. And all he did was look at you. So what I want to teach you is how to have more power in your life, not to react to other people, because otherwise, and you have to use language that they get, but like they're going to own you. Like you're your brother's puppet. He owns you, but he's irritating. Of course he is. All humans are irritating, right? You're going to grow up and work for an irritating person. You're going to marry an irritating person. You're going to be irritating to them. And you're going to have irritating kids. Welcome to life.
Yep.
But what I've been able to do is for the one child say, here's what you're looking for is intense brain stimulation, intense engagement. You're getting it in a negative way, and that just causes you to get in trouble. And that can be like stealing stuff, lying, taking things. It's all brain stimulation, poking your brother. I can show you a different way. And other child, you're just reacting and blaming your brother. Well, I can show you how to take power over your life so that you are responsible for it and you own your own mood. So now I just taught them something, but it started with me not changing their behavior, but just changing mine. And I find that to be very powerful.
Genius. Do you make home visits?
No, but it's interesting, Chad, since you're, a reverend, you watch Jesus in how he went into situations. like the woman caught in adultery,
Yeah.
which I always find fascinating because he, he stooped over, he knelt in the ground, and he's just kind of drawing in the dirt or something.
Mm-hmm.
His eyes aren't on the woman in her shame,
Right.
which I thought was beautiful in itself, right? Because we would have been like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Scripture says you don't do this. And here he is just teaching, but he used body posture. And you'll see that a lot of him
Yeah.
sitting where he's like de-escalating when he wants to, but he can also escalate if he wants to, like in the temple.
Yeah.
But it was
there's a
just
time for it. Yeah.
when there's a time for it. But it's just interesting how much there was like him sitting in a situation and just reading at the woman at the well.
Yeah.
And he goes, I know what you're looking for. You keep dipping into there, but that doesn't satisfy. Like I always joke with parents, like you'll have one lecture a day that is more than all the red words in the New Testament that we have Jesus saying, right? But we just, like I'm going on and on a little bit too much.
Yeah, I love it. So you're so right in that. And we have the ability with our voice, with our tone, with our posture to do the same. We can either de-escalate a situation or we can escalate a situation. And a lot of times we don't think about that, do we? We just we react. You used that word earlier. I think there's a difference between reacting and responding. We react and we oftentimes kind of lose it. So what's really going on when a parent loses it? When they come into the room, the kids are squabbling, not getting along, and we just react to the situation. We do what you talked about to start with. We yell at them. Can't believe you can't get along. You never get along. You go to your room. You go to your room. I don't want to hear another word. What's really going on with us?
I think our greatest enemy as parents is our own anxiety as parents, because we love our kids so much. And we're like, but I want them to be good kids. I want you to be happy. I want you to be able to get this done. I want you to be able to get a good job one day. And then we're looking at these little humans. They're not living up to their potential, but neither are we, right? And they're not doing it the right way. And so it like triggers us inside. It's like, guys, look, it's not that hard. Just if you would just do, and then we're pressured and we're rushed, right? Like we've got to get out the door. And you'll notice, I don't know if you've noticed, the more you try to rush, especially strong-willed kids, the slower they go.
That's right.
Because inside, here's what they know. Dad, I'm not getting in the car with you. Because most people find like on Sunday mornings, one of the worst mornings of the whole week.
Yep.
Because now it's like, we got to get up, got to go to church. And then those of us with like more challenging kids, their kids don't want to go to like, to Sunday school. They have a big meltdown. And so we're embarrassed in front of everybody. So we're uptight, and kids can feel that. They hear it in your voice. And that's why I think men actually have an advantage here. I like an even matter-of-fact tone. I think it de-escalates things, because as soon as you come in with a heightened voice like that, guys, you know what? I'm not going to ask you again. Well, that just means you're going to ask them like 10 times.
Yeah.
So the analogy, Chad, that I use for men a lot is use the same voice you do at work. Like all men respect other men who stay cool and calm under pressure.
Yeah.
Right? Like the quarterback of your football team in the fourth quarter, if you're losing, you don't want, like, you're in Atlanta, so you don't want Kirk Cousins or Michael Penix coming in the huddle. You know what? It's the fourth quarter. We're down by 2 touchdowns. You don't know what route to run. You keep fumbling. Let's go score. Well, that's a like flailing parenting thing. You better listen or else.
Right.
But a good quarterback comes in and says, guys, we're down by 2 touchdowns. We're going to march down the field. We're going to execute our plays, score, get the ball back and score again, break. And the team follows him precisely because he's in control of himself.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the beautiful thing. I use the example of like an ER doctor. An ER doctor, at 2 a.m, when they're bringing in someone with a gunshot wound or a car accident, isn't like, I can't believe that you were out that late and you're bleeding all over my emergency room.
Right.
It's
right.
like, no, let's take the vitals, assess the situation, see what's going on, and then I'm going to lead my team and we're going to bring this guy back to life, settle the situation. So I think as guys, we can actually do that really well when we're not reactive.
And I think that's key. I love those illustrations. That's really, really helpful in thinking about what tone of voice to use. My little boy, we know he has ADHD, and he's a little bit neurodivergent as well, but he has a funny way of saying it. He says, "Daddy, why are you talking so serious?" That's what he sees that as my serious voice.
That's funny.
I kind of get, I get stern, but I also get loud. And, so thinking about, he doesn't, a lot of times his response to that is to, kind of pull into himself.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes tears come to his eyes just from my serious voice.
Yeah.
And that makes me think, this isn't the way to go. That shouldn't be his response, unless he's done something like, dangerous.
Right. But those kids, they're often, this like the strong-willed kids, and a lot of our like ADHD kids are like rambunctious. They're also really sensitive kids.
They are.
So they're picking up, like I always say, your kids know what mood you're in before you do, because they can hear, like they'll hear that. Guys, I don't have time. Come on, get in the car. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're not being mean. It's just that it doesn't work, because what they're hearing is, I'm going to be frustrated the whole way driving to church. I'm going to cut people off, right? And so they know it's like, okay, when my dad has that voice, it's possible he's going to be combustible.
Yeah.
And that's kind of scary for kids, right? I mean, also with moms as well. But typically, forgive me for the gender stereotypes, but they're kind of play out more often than not. Like with the mom who's really anxious, a lot of moms go to that really sweet tone and they're talking to their kids in question marks, and the kids are like, "Hey, why are you talking to me like I'm two? Like, treat me like a grown up."
I'm laughing because I know exactly what you're talking about.
Well, I think it's a natural, what we do in society. We had the authoritarian yelling approach.
Yeah.
And then good parents said, well, I don't want to use fear and intimidation, because you've seen that even in the church, right? It's like, well, I'll follow Jesus because I don't want to go to hell. And you're like, no, you do it because it's really good to emulate Jesus. And it's really like he's
wrong motivation.
Yeah, wrong motivation, wanted out of the relationship. So a lot of parents went to, well, now I'm just going to talk like this. And what strong-willed kids hear is that it's condescending and weak. And so I think right in between is, for me, it's just understanding human nature, which is, these are little humans. Like my toddler has never done toddlerhood before. Every morning when that kid wakes up, the world is new, and I'm drawn and I want to touch things and get into things. Like that's their job. But we act like it's like, well, no, they should just listen the very first time I tell them to do something. No, your little ADD guy, his brain's running so fast. He's not always intentionally just being like disobedient. He's like, there's something new. I want to try it. And they're supposed to be impulsive. And then teenagers, it's like, he's 15. This is the first time he is feeling all those hormones rushing through his body. We're just doing parenting for the first time. So it's like, have some patience, chill out and recognize. So I like normalizing things. Of course you'd want to get into that. That shiny new object. Tell me where we haven't seen that before, like in all of Scripture, where King David saw that shiny object woman.
I want that. Yeah.
I think there's value in normalizing and being like, of course my teenager is interested in these things. So rather than freaking out, I'm going to be like, yeah, of course you'd be curious about that. So let me show you a different way to handle your curiosity so you don't get burned. 4-year-old, 3-year-old, you want to build with things and get into things. I'm going to give you an opportunity to do that so that you don't break all of our stuff and hurt yourself. So there's this like more measured tone of like, my job is to like walk alongside you and show you how to handle life rather than just react every time you do something wrong.
And that's so important. And I'm in the process of learning this too. I don't think we ever really master it per se. I think we're always learning and trying to be better. I will say whoever wrote Easy Like Sunday Morning did not have kids, apparently. But, for example, this morning, my wife has to go to work before I do. I'm the parent responsible for getting the kids up, getting the kids dressed, out the door, and take them to school. She does the pickup and homework, so we split that up. This morning, my 4-year-old comes downstairs and says, "Daddy, is it a school day?" And I said, "Yes, sir, it is." He's like, "I don't want today to be a school day." And it kind of melts down. And I'm like, my instinct is to be like, "What are you talking about? We do this every day."
Yeah.
But for him, he just woke up. This day is new. He's trying to make sense of what the expectations of this day are. And so having to remind myself, hey, it seems like on my side that we do this every day, 5 days a week. But for him, like there's gaps sometimes, there's weekends.
Yeah.
We do church on Sundays. I don't know what day it is or what to expect. And
Right.
he has his desires. Of course, he just wants to play. And when his desires don't meet reality, he gets frustrated. Well, don't we do the same?
Yeah.
And just realizing, I think that's so helpful. Realizing that, they're not just trying to aggravate us. And there's also this concept too of realizing that they don't just innately know things.
Right.
I'll give you an example. I'm coaching my 4-year-old's t-ball team, herding cats, basically. I'm teaching them the very, very basics. And I realized that at some point, someone had to teach me some of these things. I've always known that the position between third base and second base is called shortstop.
Yeah.
Tell a kid to go to shortstop, and they look at you like you have 3 eyes.
Which base is that?
That's right. And you tell them to go to left field, and they go to the right, and you're like, your other left. And so somebody had to teach me all of these things for the first time. And that's what we're doing as parents a lot of times. This is their first encounter. And you know what? They're not going to get it the first time. We don't get things the first time. It takes repetition. It takes consistency. And so being able to come alongside them, I think, is a really helpful way of thinking through that. Show them how to do life, not just react when they don't do it well.
Yeah, I think if I had to do it over, I would slow down our lifestyle. So we just had time, like just plan for your 4-year-old asking, like, is it a school day, Daddy? I don't want to go to school. I want to stay. That's going to happen after school. Some kids just have a hard time at school, so they're exhausted. So when they come home, it's like not into like, hey, how was school? Let's jump into homework.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, I hid something outside. Bet you guys can't find it. Well, now I get kids outside in fresh air and they've got something they're in control of and they're playing a little bit. I'm working off some of that energy. So in our language, it's more about just giving them tools to handle life, right? Like, so here's a tool. So in the morning, I love treasure hunt in the morning because now it's like, hey, get up for school, go to that place you don't want to go to. It's like, hey, get up, see if you can figure out where I hid your clothes this morning.
Yeah, I like that.
Like, is it in the basement? Is it in the backyard? Like,
it's
fine.
Interactive. It's fun.
I think I'd probably have more fun sometimes as moms and dads, and especially as dads, we're like, I've got to prepare my child for the realities of a hard life.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I know, but like they're 5 or they're 12, like they're going to change. And I like to remind dads, like, we were just dopey 12-year-olds. It's not like we had a plan for our life. We'd wake up and it's like, where are we going to play with our friends outside? Are we going to go ride our bikes somewhere? Are we going to throw crab apples at cars? Are we going to do like we did stupid stuff too. And so I think if I had to do it again, I would have slowed down and had the idea. It's almost like, I don't know if you remember, like the old Andy Griffith show. At the beginning of the show, it's Andy Griffith walking next to Opie.
Yeah.
And that vision, it's almost like I try to picture of like God not opposed to me, but God walking alongside and saying, hey, son, you didn't handle that well. Let me show you why don't we do that differently next time? Yeah. Sometimes it's more stern of like, hey, you go down that path, you're going to hurt a lot of people. And I'm like, okay. And then there's the times where it's like the arm around your shoulder of like, hey, 14-year-old, you're just an awkward bundle of hormones. Like, let me show you. My assumption is that kids, if you come alongside, they're not always going to learn the first time and they want to figure it out themselves. But eventually they'll be like, okay, my dad's way, my mom's way just tends to work better for me.
Right.
And so it's being, I hate to say it sounds so simple, but it's not simple, but it's like, be more patient with them.
Yeah.
And with yourself, right?
Yeah.
And
Give
knowing
grace.
like, yeah, lots of grace for things like our son is 33. Most of the stuff we focused on when he was young, it didn't matter, right? Like, you got to dress this, you got to do this. And it's like the stuff that makes him successful in his relationships and work are just the stuff that we kind of modeled for him. Like, all right, let someone cut in front of you. If you want your kids to be generous, let them see you be generous with others. That's not, doesn't require an 8-minute lecture, right? It just requires like, yeah, I noticed my dad always opened doors for people. And when we were in a rush in traffic, he'd purposefully let someone else cut in front of him. Like that stuff sticks. All of our work, like I'll ask my son, I'll be like, Casey, like when we're doing a long hike, I'll be like, what's your favorite dad lecture from when you were a kid? And he was like, Dad, I don't remember. He said, I just watched you change. I watched how you treated people and I want to do the same.
Wow.
And then I'm like, okay, that's pretty powerful. I said, you didn't notice all the bad things I did you? He goes, yeah, I saw it all.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's something valid about that, about us letting them see it all.
Yeah.
Letting them see it all. And when we think about it, a lot of times we try to show them our highlights, but then we don't show a lot of the behind the scenes of like what it looks like to repair a relationship once you've done something wrong. Let them see our weaknesses. Let them see how we handle the struggles of life. And hopefully we're doing it well. Hopefully we're doing it. Or if we don't, we learn from it and we can use that as an example for them. But so many times I think we try to put on a face for them. And we try to just show them our best things. But really, that's not what they want. They want to just see us live life. And I think there's something powerful about realizing that they're always watching, not to add pressure, and of course, not to be judgmental, but they're always watching. And, modeling, I'm learning too, seems to be the most effective pattern that they're going to follow. You can tell them something, but if you live it out differently, they're going to follow that. Is that your experience as well?
Yeah, and I think it's like, I think the times we mess up are fantastic opportunities.
Yes.
Just to be honest, like not make excuses for it, but just say like, yeah, have you noticed, like I would tell Casey, hey, have you noticed in these situations, I get really tense? And he'll be like, yeah, I can feel it. And I'll be like, yeah, that's because it's unknowns, things I can't control, and I struggle with that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would talk to him, you've got to watch, you don't want to overshare and burden your kids, but I'd say, hey, in the home that I grew up in, if you did this, my dad, Papa would hit you. I didn't tell him that when he was little, but later on he kind of realized what I'd grown up with.
Right.
But I would share, here's one I would talk to him about. Hey, Case, I have ADHD. You do too. Guess what? We are going to struggle with impulse control.
Yeah.
And I would talk to him pretty openly in his teen years of like, look at every man since the beginning of time has gotten in trouble pretty much one way.
Yeah.
If it wasn't murdering someone, it was something else.
Right.
And so I said, that's always going to be kind of a challenge for you. So here's how I deal with that. Here's how I work through. So I'm actually writing something for a podcast on how to teach kids impulse control and delayed gratification.
Yeah.
So when he was young, Red Robin was new back then, and it was kind of like a fun, cool restaurant. And I remember saying like, hey, Case, how many fries are we leaving on the plate tonight? He'd be like, why would you do that? That's dumb. Those are good. And I was like, I know, they're good and greasy. And I'd say, because I want to be able to know that I do have impulse control, that I can say no to those last 3 French fries.
Yeah.
And so I know that's kind of a dumb example, but we did that stuff all the time of like, hey, I really want that thing from Best Buy. We're going to walk out of the store. And if we still want it 2 days from now, it will still be there. And so it was kind of him watching of like, My dad struggles with impulse control. Here's what he does. And I didn't really have to like lecture about it. It was just part of you said a couple minutes ago, like not any pressure. To me, our kids watching us takes the pressure off in
Yeah.
the sense that I don't have to worry about, okay, I've got to fit in lecture 43B so he gets it. It's like, let me live out my life. I think that was the power of why we follow Jesus. Like, we don't always remember like verbatim what he said,
Yeah.
but we remember the stories. The
Hmm.
woman at the well, the woman caught in adultery, what he did with his disciples. Like, we know what he did and how he handled situations. And so that becomes very clearly etched in our minds, and it's kind of a DNA that's in us, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Absolutely. There's two things that come to mind. We've been kind of dancing all around to this, but there's two words that come to mind: patience and self-control, that really play into this, I think. And guess what those are? Those are fruits of the spirit. So if you find yourself especially as a Christian, as a Christ follower, if you find yourself really lacking in those areas, in that's fruit of the spirit. It's not fruit of the flesh, it's fruit of the spirit. And so as we plug more into God, as we invite him into every area of our life, including our parenting, as we grow closer, we begin to exhibit some more of those fruit. And I'm convinced that the closer we get to God, the more Christ-like we look in our parenting, and the more we will exhibit that patience and self-control. The pastor in me wants to make sure I'm emphasizing that part because, it's not white knuckling it until you figure it out. I think that the Lord gives us wisdom, and the Lord gives us the Spirit to help us and guide us, and to become the parents that He's created us to be. Because you know what, He formed your child. He created your child. He knows them more than you know them. And he has their best interest at heart. He knows exactly what they need. He knows what their future has in store. And so if we lean into that, I'm convinced that that's the ticket for how to really have these things play out in our lives.
I was going to ask you something like this is something I've seen that our view of God as a father often has a direct impact on how we parent, right? Like
Yeah.
I grew up with, well, a dad is a harsh authoritarian who's never really happy with me.
Yes.
And that's in a lot of the church, right? Like that a lot of us grew up with that. Like he's just kind of angry out there and wants to punish. And so then we do the same thing, or it becomes like, okay, this is God who walks beside us, who guides us, leads us, corrects us when necessary, encourages us. And then we become, as you said, like as we become kind of more like him,
Hmm.
then it kind of is a natural outgrowth in our parenting of like, so I had to kind of retrain my brain of what God is like because
That's
I
right.
knew the harsh. And I would always ask, and this is kind of cool, I would ask, would I treat my son this way? And if I wouldn't treat my son this way, I don't think God is angry at me 3 months later.
Yeah.
Like it actually helped me draw closer to God in an odd way, backwards, like working through it of like, I'm a flawed dad and I forgive my son. So God is a much better father. I don't know if that makes
Yeah.
sense, but it kind of worked in
And
both
and
ways.
it does. It works both ways. And I found myself, and this has been convicting for me. I found myself telling my son and telling all of my kids. I have two sons and a daughter. God has given us a mandate to, you know, to guide you, to direct you, just like He does. He guides us, He directs us, and then He gives you parents that are going to guide you and direct you. And then I've found myself thinking sometimes, and usually when I'm laying in bed at night after a not so great bedtime routine, am I treating them like my Heavenly Father treats me? Because a lot of times the way we treat our kids is how they're going to view God. It works both ways. How
Hmm.
we view God is a lot of times how we treat our kids, but then also how we treat our kids is how they will view God.
Yeah.
Especially we use that language that the Bible uses, God the Father. And for some people, that's a turnoff, that
Hmm.
God the Father, because they had a bad relationship with their father.
Right.
and helping people understand and unwrap that and kind of uncover that and say, he's the perfect father. He's a good father. He's better than your earthly father. And I think that takes a little bit of pressure off too. But yeah, there is that concept that goes both ways, to where we're painting a picture for them of what it looks like to live this world with all the mistakes we're going to make and all the pressures and all the hurry. You mentioned slowing down your pace of life. I like that. How do we live this life? How do we live this life glorifying God? How do we live faithful to God in the midst of the chaos?
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, we struggle with that, and we have to think about it. I think it's important to think about, am I portraying an accurate depiction of how God the Father treats me? And yeah, that's a really good point that you made, because we're forming an opinion in their minds of what this God is like. And if he's authoritative, hateful, and always looking to get you in trouble, that may stick with them more than we think.
Yeah. I mean, I had to work through for decades, right, of that. And I think as I get older, Chad, just humility,
Yeah.
right? Like it's like when you're young. I remember when I was young, it was like everything's black and white and I know best. And I'm like, and that's normal, right? Like
Yeah.
when you're young and you're in the midst of it, it's always, that's why I like having, like my best friend is 80. He's way older than me,
Mhm.
which I remind him of. And no, but it's nice because you get to see, like, with age comes like, okay, some humility of realizing, yeah, most of the stuff that I was focused on when the kids were young wasn't it's those little moments, like with you, with your little ones, when you're at first reactive and you're like,
Mhm.
hey, you know what, how many times do I just, but then when you catch yourself and you're able to say, hey, you know what? I just took out my anxiety on you. My bad.
Mhm.
Man, that is powerful,
Yeah.
because then kids see, like, my dad has humility. My dad is able to catch himself,
Mhm.
right? So it's not about being perfect. Like what my son, like if you ask my son what he remembers, he would say, I saw my dad go from an intense reactive guy to someone who could walk alongside and support and help me and teach me.
Yeah.
So it was the disparity and the transformation that he noticed. And not that I did it well and I'm still growing, but we have such good talks around that of like, do I really care about all these little things, or is it kind of focusing on, I like how you say it. Now I forgot how, but kind of just walking alongside and teaching them life.
Mm.
Hey, this is how it's going to work. Yeah, you know what? You have a friend at school, and sometimes they go through things and they kind of push you away, and it's going to hurt. But you stay that steady person, and they come back to you. Or opposite of like, hey, you've got self-respect. You put up boundaries. You don't have to let people treat you like that. That's not the
Right.
way you do it. But yeah, I think I'd go back and I would do a lot more teaching of, hey, Case, here's what I've struggled with in life, and here's what you're probably going to encounter. I'll give you an example. So he's a teenager. He's coming at me with attitude. And your oldest is 9, so you'll have this to look forward to. But you'll have mastered
Well,
it by then.
she's a girl, and I'm starting to get it. She's 9 going on 19. So
Yeah, and she's going to be way smarter than you
right.
and 3 steps ahead. So I remember he comes with attitude. And, previously I'd just be like, you can't talk to your dad like that if you're going to be disrespectful. And I was like, fine. So I remember one day I just said, hey, Case, I've noticed a pattern. Whenever you use that tone, it's usually because you're anxious about something happened at school, or you're hungry.
Hmm.
So here's tough. So 2 options, right? You can continue to talk to me like that if you want, but it just doesn't end well for you.
Yeah.
Right? I like that versus, if you keep that up, because I think that's kind of how God's like, look, I see the path you're on. It's just not going to end well.
Yeah. He's
Right?
not going to bash us over the head.
Yeah. And it's not like you keep doing, it's like, son, this is going to hurt you.
Yeah.
It's not that it hurts me. It hurts me. I'm not personally offended because I know you're made of clay because I made you. So it's clear to me that you're, you're just figuring it out. But it's not going to work. And so my tone with him became, you can keep doing that. I don't need you to respect me. I have self-respect. I don't need it. You need to respect me. It's good
Yeah.
for you. So and then I'd say, but if you want to grab some chips, I'll grab some salsa. I'll meet you out on the deck and I'll help you with whatever you're struggling with.
Mm.
That changed so much with him in his teen years, because now instead of taking it personally, making a demand, you do this or else, I was like, hey, something's going on with you. I've lived long enough to see some patterns here. And with your daughter, it will be very clear in her preteen years, right? Of like, hey, honey, this sounds like something is happening at school with a girl, with a friend of yours. So you can do that if you want, but I don't think it'll end well. But if you want to go for a walk, like I've had dads who daughters like to draw, and a dad will be like, hey, I'm getting my sketch pad. I'll be in the basement. If you want to come down and talk about it, bring down a couple snacks and we'll draw together. Like that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so for my son, it was always eating.
Hmm.
And that's what we still do at 33. He's always hungry. So I was like, you grab some chips, I'll grab some salsa. And there's an invitation. Come be with me.
Yeah.
Instead of like, go to your room until you can figure out your attitude. That to me is the danger of like, when we do something wrong, God gets angry and sends us away, versus, yeah, I've seen this. Come spend some time with me and I'll help you figure this out. And I think that's why to this day, like Casey and I, like my favorite thing with a grown son is to get a text. Hey, Dad, I need to talk to you about something. Do you have time? It almost makes me cry now. I'm like, yeah, I can talk. So my son wants my wisdom.
Yeah.
Call me right now.
Yeah.
And you're building that throughout, your kids are 4 and 6 and 9. Like that's what you're going to have, Chad, is your kids are going to be like, I know I can rely on my dad.
Yeah.
It's almost making me choke up, because then it's like, I can rely on my earthly dad, but I know that he's also not always able to figure out the bigger stuff. So I know I can rely on my, heavenly dad.
Yeah.
For that. So yeah, it's kind of beautiful.
It is beautiful. What I'm reminded of as you walk through that story, and that's a really good practical illustration. But what I'm reminded of is that a lot of times we sacrifice long-term for short-term. Here's what I mean by that. It may be more efficient in the short term to yell and make them become compliant with what we're trying to make them do. But we're sacrificing the long-term lesson there. We're sacrificing the teaching that we can provide by just enforcing compliance. And then also, we're sacrificing a little bit of long-term relationship, aren't we? Because who wants to go talk to that guy? Let's be honest. If I was struggling with something and I knew my dad was a hothead, which he wasn't and isn't, and I'm thankful for that. But if he was, I wouldn't want to go talk to that guy, because who knows? I may say something that sets him off, But we become, and I think maybe exhaustion plays into this, maybe sleep deprivation, maybe the busy lifestyle that so many of us live. I think all of these things play into this factor. And I think we know that there's a way to do better, but in the moment, we just want compliance. And we just want you to do what I want you to do. And we sacrifice so much in that moment. Is that accurate with what you've seen?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, financial pressures, like, it's just stressful. And you love your kids so much. You're like, but I've got to teach them. Like, if my son or daughter, if they don't listen to what I tell them to do, they're not going to get a job. They'll get fired. So I'm not talking about being permissive and letting them get away with things at all.
Right.
But I also don't, especially like our thing is we work with strong-willed kids who are always going to resist at first.
Right.
Always, like every time. Like even if you ask them like, hey, do you want some Cheetos? No. Like they have an initial no to everything. And so, yeah, I think it's that balance of to me, the relationship is everything, but you can have your boundaries, right?
Sure.
Like,
we're not saying don't set boundaries.
Hey, Case, if you talk to me like that, it's not going to work well for you.
Right.
But the energy goes to, hey, come let's go get something to eat. Let's build, like, child's melting down, typical in cases like melting down, say, yelling at my wife in the kitchen. I can come in and say, you know what? How many times have I told you, you don't yell at your mother? Go to your room. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, you weren't mean. It's just that you send them away from you when there's something else going on. So I think for the men out there, we tend to be good at problem solving, right? Like, we're strategy. So what I started to do is like say, I'm going to be a detective. So I walk into that room, my son's yelling at his mother. He clearly knows that's wrong, right? Like, there's no kid who's like, well, yeah, sometimes it's okay to yell at your mother. They know it's wrong. They know it's wrong to steal and lie. So I become a detective and say, something else is going on. So I come into the room and rather escalate it, right? Like, go to your room. And then usually as men, we do, you know what? No food, no video games for 3 days, right? We
Right.
tell
Right.
consequences we can't keep. And our kids are like, you can't follow through on that. So instead, I do an invitation. Hey, I know something's going on. Hey, Case, when you're ready, if you want to come outside, I've got the football play catch. Hey, I'm going to go dump some Legos on the floor. If you want to come in and build that cool spaceship, I'd love to help you out with this.
Wow.
So I'm not letting, because men are afraid, like, I can't let him get away with
Right.
yelling at his mother. Well, just yelling at him and sending him to his room, he still kind of got away with it. Like, you didn't address it. You just sent him to his room.
Right.
And so what I'm doing is, hey, come do something. Now we're going to play catch. We're going to build with Legos. We're going to build something together in the garage. He's busy with his hands. I'm not staring at him because that's like with your younger one who's sensitive, just like, look at me when I'm talking. It's too much.
Yeah.
So now we're next to each other and I can say, hey, really good job with that. That's cool how you do that. We calm down. Now I can discipline, say, hey, I heard what was going on in the kitchen. Curious what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm more likely to get, Dad, I'm just really frustrated. I was at school all day and then Mom asked me to do X. And so I was frustrated. And I'd be like, okay, I get that. Like, school's frustrating like it is for work. Why do you think I come home and yell at you sometimes? I'm basically doing the same thing to you that you just did to Mom out of my own frustration. So how do you want to handle that differently? And then he knew, okay, I'll go apologize to Mom. And sometimes I'd say, what's even better than an apology? And he was like, well, I could do a little service project for Mom. I could help her with something. I'd be like, bingo. And then we would problem solve. Okay, tomorrow when you come home from school frustrated, instead of taking that out on Mom, what do you do differently? You want to do a treasure hunt? You want to do something physical? Why don't you talk to Mom and say, Mom, could we have a different afternoon routine?
Yeah.
Because when I get home from school, I've been 7 hours listening to someone talk. I could use a little quiet. Doesn't mean I don't want to talk to you, Mom, but right then I could. So it was more about problem solving and teaching than just about disciplining, punishing, if that makes sense.
And that's going to matter more long term. You're helping them solve the problem of what caused that reaction to start with. And man, that's where it's at. They're acting the way that they're acting for a reason. We can correct the action, and sometimes that needs to happen. But if we leave the root unresolved, it's just going to keep on happening.
Chad, you know this because you're a pastor, so you could tell the story, but it's the woman at the well.
Yeah, right.
He didn't get on her like, you've had 5 husbands or how many ever it was. He was like, you could hear there's compassion of like,
that's right.
You keep searching for the wrong thing. And it's never, so there's almost like a pleading voice of like, I hurt for you because if you don't get to the root, you're going to be on husband number 6 and then 7. And that's a lot of pain that's coming your way.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, say, if you're a Christian, that compassionate side is, my son, if you don't learn how to handle frustration in 2nd grade and 10th grade, you're going to have frustration at your job.
Yeah.
And then you're going to hurt your wife and you're going to hurt your kid. Like, it's going to hurt you.
Right.
So I'm going to show you a different way to handle that. That's like the Jesus with the woman at the well of like, I want to give you living water because this will work. This is going to work much better for you. It wasn't like a matter of like, like sometimes we parent like Jesus was resentful on the cross, right? Like,
Hmm.
look what I did for you.
Wow.
And now you're like, he wasn't. It was like, no, I came to save you. As I get older, I almost think it's like God came to save me from myself,
Yeah.
right? More like I don't look at myself as having a lot of like enemies, like a political enemy. It's like my worst enemy is myself.
It's
It's
me.
my own immaturity. It's my own impulsivity. It's my own selfishness at times when I just want my way.
Hmm.
If like when I focus on that stuff, it's like what anybody outside of me doesn't really impact me that much.
Yeah. Right.
But it's working on myself. Sorry for that. That was a little aside, but
It's super helpful. Kirk, I could talk to you for hours about this because this is something that you're speaking life into. And I appreciate you doing that. Your voice is important, and I appreciate you lending it to us today. If there's someone out there struggling right now, they're yelling at their kids, they want to start making some changes. What's one thing, what's one shift, what's one practical activity they could implement today to kind of lower that tension in their home this week?
I'm going to do 3. One is forgive yourself, realize probably came from your own childhood, right? You're just doing what you were probably taught.
Right.
You're frustrated. So there's no blame or guilt because that goes down, that spirals. Second, I'd say sit in the midst of situations. That's my number one for guys because we want to come into a situation and fix it. Just walk in for the next week, walk into situations and sit in the midst of them without trying to fix them. And watch when you sit, your tone changes. Hey, Jeremy, what's going on? I'm curious. What's going on? And you become that detective, and your natural, I'm speaking to dads, your natural dad skills will come out.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what, son, daughter? I don't think that's going to work for you. Have you noticed that? And they'll be like, yeah. I was like, okay, so here's another option. And then for me, Chad, it became addictive. I was like, wait, I can sit. I don't have to have like a 10-step calming routine. I'm a guy. I'm not that bright. I began to sit, and then I began to look and say, hey, Case, you think that's going to work well right now? Nah. I goes, I've got a couple ideas. Here's a couple things you could try differently. And then he would try them. And then there wasn't like a big thing like, I told you so. It just became a way of life of like, hey, I don't think that's working in my life. Why don't I course correct? And there's no shame or guilt or blame. I'm owning it. But now I'm just like, okay. Anyway, I'd sit. If I had one thing to do, I'd just sit in every situation.
I'm going to do that today.
Just when you walk in on your 3 kids, just sit and observe. I like being a detective. I think it suits men well.
Yeah.
Because we like to figure out how stuff works. And then you become like, you ask these questions of like, hey guys, do you think this is going to, like when you have 2 of your rambunctious ones who are kind of getting a little out of control and you know they're going to get hurt or hurt each other, instead of guys creating your own drama, you can just say like, hey guys, what do you think's going to happen within the next 7 minutes?
Right.
Well, probably going to fall. I'm going to hit him over the head, and then there's going to be and then we're going to have to clean it up. And be like, okay, so do you want to take a different path right now? Is your daughter, that's a great one to do with your daughter because she's so bright.
Yeah.
Right. And steps ahead of you. Hey, honey, this is what I like this phrase. I know I'm going on and on. Sorry. Hey, something I've found in life is when I do X, it doesn't end up well. But if I wait and sleep on it before texting that friend back, usually works better. Your daughter's like, you're not telling her what to do. You're giving her wisdom, and then she can own it herself.
Yeah.
And then the next morning, she's like, Dad, I waited before I texted my friend. And as it turns out, she had something go wrong yesterday, and that was why she was mean to me. Like, that's almost making me cry because now it's like this beautiful thing with your daughter. And she's like, man, my dad can be a dopey, big bearded dude. He also has some wisdom and helps me.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
Helps you relate to them.
Yeah.
And, it's there seems to be, speaking from a man's perspective, from a husband, father, because of the way a lot of us were raised, there tends to be this temptation to go into the situation and we need to be macho. And the yelling and the strong front and the taking control of the situation somehow checks that box for us.
Mm-hmm.
But what if I said that's not working? Is that getting you the results that you want, other than you feel better about yourself? Is that what your kids think? Or is that what your kids need the most? And if the answer is no, which I think it probably is for most of us, there's a better way.
Mm-hmm.
And Kirk is inviting us into that better way. And I would even say this, it's a lot more like the Jesus way, as we've described today. Kirk, thank you, brother. You're a gift. You're a blessing. And you said that, wait a minute, did I cut you off? Did you say you had 3?
No,
You
I
said
think the second was enough.
Okay, we'll go with 2 then. You guys practice that. And I can almost promise you're going to see results. You're going to like those results. And you're going to start doing what works. Kirk, where can my listeners find out more about you, your podcast, and the work you're doing?
I just look up the Calm Parenting Podcast. We're everywhere. We're at celebratecalm.com, which is a weird name. But if you Google Calm Parenting Podcast, you'll find us everywhere.
Yeah, I'll put some links in the show notes as well. But
yeah.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you being here.
I appreciate you, my friend. You're a good man.
You as well.
Keep enjoying those kids.
That's right. Yeah, well, we're doing our best, and sometimes it feels like our best isn't good enough. But we know with the help of the Lord and with voices like yours, we can do a little better, and we know that God will honor that. So.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Bless you, my friend.